Welcome to Electrolysis Unplugged, an after-hours chat beyond the probe with Joanie and Stephanie. We're here to dive deep into the world of electrolysis, education, and all things hair removal.
Whether you're a seasoned professional or just curious about the art of permanent hair removal, we've got the insights, tips, and fun stories to keep you plugged in.
So grab your tools, take a seat, and let's get into it. This is Electrolysis Unplugged, brought to you by the Electrology Education Coalition.
Hello.
Good
Good evening.
How are you?
All right. I missed last week. Ugh.
Well, remember that you can go in
still
the
need to go back
archive.
and watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Did
so funny.
did you guys talk about, because I had asked Stephanie earlier that same day about that tool. Did you guys end up going over that or no? The pain, it was
We
like
didn't. I wanted to be able to do
vibrating
it for you
pain
live.
thing.
Yeah. I did not. I wanted
Okay.
to do that for you
awesome.
live.
And then I have another question. I had a client call me today. They're coming in for a consultation tomorrow. And then she called back immediately because then she was doing research. And she said that it says online that she shouldn't get electrolysis if she has rosacea. And I never heard that, so I don't know.
She
Well,
can get electrolysis with rosacea.
Yeah.
Wh-
So
What's the concern?
the concern is basically going over rosacea because it's already inflamed and you have like the redness present, is that it prolongs the issue. And so if someone's doing corrective treatments to their rosacea, what I've been told is like, don't do corrective treatments and electrolysis at the same time. You have to kind of pick your battle first. And then basically, so if she wants to get hair removal done, she can get hair removal done. It could inflame in that area. Okay. If it's in the same area. But then once you've gotten your electrolysis under control, then you can start to do corrective treatment again.
Okay. Yeah, it's on her
Um,
cheeks and it's for her chin.
Yeah,
So
and watch for like acne rosacea cases too, because if there's an active flare up and breakouts, then you're dealing with a little bit more infected skin. So you'll want to make sure that you're not kind of playing around in there and spreading it around.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And a lot of times, like, and it's interesting that we're talking about this because, like, just last week I did a consultation that was a little bizarre. And since we're just going, I'm just going to tell you guys about this. So I had a woman come in, early 30s, impeccable skincare. She is Armenian background, and has like really dark hair, some problematic hairs, but overall, like at first glance, she just has like brown peach fuzz. Okay. Now on her upper lip, she had some terminal hair growth in there. And as we get to talking first, like everything from this woman's appointment was a little off. Okay. She booked a 2-hour appointment with a student, no consultation online. She had found some way to get around that, which was irritating, but we figured out what happened in the back end. And then from there, once I moved her to a consultation, when she got there, she wanted my schedule be as like with the teacher, but student pricing. Okay. And then as we got, and so I know, I was like, no, I don't do that. So as we got to talking, she was highlighting the fact that like she's had this problematic hair for a really long time. She says, "Oh yeah, when I was 13, my parents bought me a home unit and I tried to do it, but it was really painful. So I just have been plucking it away." And she goes, "But I heard electrolysis can break down my collagen and elastin." I will say the improper electrolysis, by all means, is gonna ruin the skin, right?
It's going to break down everything.
It's gonna break down everything.
Yeah.
But when done correctly, and I'm always straightforward with patients, like when done correctly, that's not the case. However, because she knows that improper electrolysis can, she was like, "Well, is that what you guys do?" And I was like, "No, that's not what this is. Like you won't be in a student schedule if this is a concern of yours because you won't be able to give them the grace that they need in their training process. So you would have to be in my schedule. It would be full price." And as we get to talking, I start the sample treatment for her after kind of like talking her off this ledge. We chose a different area. She wanted her toes done. And she like lays down and she goes, "Oh, what's that?" And I'm grabbing the filament that I'm going to be using on her. And I said, "This is electrolysis filament." She goes, "Oh, that's just like the one that I had when I was 13. And I said, "You had a ballet filament on your home unit at like when you were a kid?" She goes, "Yeah, my machine looked a lot like," and then she points out another machine that's an older machine in the office. And I was like,
Wow.
"You had a professional unit at home?" She goes, "Yeah, I guess so." Her parents, think about this, went online because their kid was complaining about hair, went and bought a machine off of eBay and bought her a professional machine at 13 years old. And you're concerned about me
That's
breaking your
crazy.
phone? What are you doing? I'm like,
Yeah, you're not concerned about the right thing.
I'm like, so these are the things that like sometimes you'll come in and like my student's face was just like, is this a normal consult? No, it's not a normal consult, um, but it is a consult that you get to experience today. So
That's right.
it can be a little interesting. Um, so okay, last week, Pauline online had asked about vibration units.
Mm,
And I'm going to talk about a couple different units that I've used over the years. So early on, probably about 10 plus years ago, there was a company called Buzzy. It's Buzzzy. And they were an injection little bumblebee. So whenever a kid gets a shot, they would put that between the area where the child is having the immunization and the brain. Okay, so it has to be between those 2 points. And what they found is vibration distracts the brain enough to reduce the sensation of the pain. And I used the Buzzy in my office for a while. The reason I stopped using it is because one, it was a large unit. Okay, so in those chat on Facebook when we were talking about that, one of the women on there had posted a picture of a little bumblebee. That's the Buzzy.
Yeah.
It's such a large unit, so you'd have to throw it into a glove so you can put it up against someone's face because you couldn't wipe it down. There was too many grooves. Couldn't sterilize it. You just had to do it that way. And then the other part is if I were to have the patient hold it, that means that they're in my way.
Hmm.
Okay. So
Right.
because between the brain and the pain, right? So if they have it on their cheek and I'm working lip, it's not going to work for us because there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Okay. But if I held it underneath my hand, so on my stretching hand, since I would work single hand on this person, in this case, my hand would go numb because of the
Oh yeah.
vibration in the hand. So, and one of the things I thought about for you, because you and I talked about this on one of the previous classes about having carpal tunnel. Okay. As someone with carpal tunnel myself, you do not want to have any of that numbness in your hand because you won't have a sturdy hand. Now, the other unit that I had put, I think somebody else had put in the chat, it's like a T-shaped unit. So it looks like a little bit like a pen and there's a little top part. Okay. Those are amazing because you can sanitize them. Okay. They can go, the patient can be far enough away that if they put it on their face, okay, that they're not near your workspace. So they're not necessarily um, being in the space that you need to be in. I will say that sometimes overstimulation is a key. So if I have somebody that I just can't get to calm down on the table, and then I give them a vibration device to help distract them, the vibration device in itself is so intense that now instead of calming them, I've heightened the experience. And so
much.
as you're working with patients, it is going to be person to person. So vibration units very helpful. If you have someone that's just needing a little bit of distraction, it's good. And it can basically go anywhere between the area that you're working and the brain, right? So if you're working on the mons pubis, you could put it on the lower belly, okay? And even though it's just one zone, right? And it's so far away from the brain, it will still provide the same desensitizing as you would if you were nearby. But it has to be between those two spaces.
So you have like the main client that I'm thinking of, it's
Mhm.
a male that I'm doing full Brazilian on, and he normally will do like a 3-hour session, and he's numbing up, and then I'm like double numbing. Like when he comes in, I'll numb more areas and kind of move the saran wrap around like as we get going. But he's just really sensitive, but he's gung-ho doing this, and I just wanted to see if there was anything different that I could try to help.
So, okay, so this is the other part of this. I don't recommend the Buzzy and the Brazilian or any type of
Okay.
vibration unit. just like you would have other vibration things in that area.
Yeah.
It
Okay,
can
I see where you're going.
be an uncomfortable
I
situation.
didn't think of that. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
think about that.
So
So what if, yeah, I'm glad I asked.
it'd be better to
I
give
don't
him an
even know
ice
why I
pack.
didn't.
Pauline would come back
Okay.
next week very angry.
Oh my God. Like,
Well,
don't put a vibrator near
even
someone.
if he's, so even if he puts it like on his belly, like that wouldn't be like far enough removed?
I mean, you can test the theory.
Okay.
But I will tell you that I've tested similar theories with the other unit, the little bumblebee,
Yeah.
and it was uncomfortable for
Oh,
me and new
okay.
and interesting ways. And I was like, sorry, dude. But ice is a great alternative. So if you can't,
Yeah.
and then it helps
So
a little bit more.
how would you do the ice like during treatment with ice?
Oh yeah. So like if I was working a Brazilian, so this is my hands are the Brazilian, okay? And this
Okay.
is like one side I'm working on and this is the other, right? So if I'm on this side, I'm going to put ice on this side and we'll start with just utilizing the numbing cream from that one side. Then we'll have the ice over here. I'll work for 15 minutes, kind of just help with the synapse fatigue starting in that area. And then I'll move to the iced area. And then I move the ice to the area I was working and I start toggling back and forth between those two spots. So I'm basically going back and forth and we're just moving the ice throughout the entire treatment. You're not going to have 3 hours of icing someone's genitals. It's not going to be the case. But for the worst part, it would help.
Yeah, you get maybe
Okay.
10, 15 minutes. Maybe I think 15 minutes of work is already kind of a long
Yeah.
time for the ice to really be, sticking afterwards.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
need to
because I
say
gave him an
over ice blocks to pre-chilled and sanitized. Yeah, absolutely.
I gave him an ice pack after treatment, and he went and put it in his pants, like under his underwear, and then like forgot about it. And then the next time he came in, he had, ice burns. And now I'm like trying to wipe it, and the skin is just like it. It really gross. I mean, I had to be on the, on the DL. Like, I'm not grossed out. I'm fine. It's just like scabbing, but it just looked worse than that. That I was like had to talk myself out. So now
And
he
it's
doesn't get ice anymore.
Yeah. It's such thin skin. Patients, it's like out of sight, out of mind. They're like, oh, I'm just going to stick this in my underwear until I get to my spot. And it's like 15 minutes is all you should be icing the surface without giving it a break, which is why when you injure yourself, it's 15 minutes on, 30 minutes off kind of thing. Because you need your skin to be able to not die.
Fall off.
Fall off. So, I mean, ice is one great way. Vibration is another. I would be careful in the Brazilian, like I said. I would say other ways that we've done is just like giving a patient like a fidget of some type. So even if you don't use a ground for your treatment, giving them a ground to give them a task. Okay. And it sounds so silly, but like as an ADHDer, like I will tell you that if you keep giving me stuff in my hands, I'm going to be so distracted with the stuff that I'm holding that it doesn't really matter what you've said to me after that, right? So it doesn't matter what you do because I'm like, why are you handing me all this? And so it's like you could always keep a little pile of just random fidgets next to your cart and be like, can you hold this for a second? And not even say anything about it because they're going to be like, why am I holding this? But it is a great way to distract the brain enough to get them focused on not you.
I have some stress balls. Sometimes those help, just to kind of put that energy somewhere else. Or I tell them make a phone call.
Yeah.
Honestly, get on the phone with somebody that can sit there with you for a while and just to chit chat because their attention is on the conversation and it tends to make it a little bit easier.
Oh yeah. Anything that you can in your treatment room to kind of just distract them from what you're doing. I ask my patients, as long as I'm not working the face, what are ways that would help you either calm or distract? Okay, so if you have someone that has a high or low pain threshold, I would not be bringing up sensitive topics. If they're going through divorce, I wouldn't be asking them about their divorce while you're working on a sensitive area, right? Or like if they hate their job, I would not, spill the tea with the patient on the table about how much they hate their job because it's just amping them up, right? And so anything you can do to kind of find that peace. I have some people that get I have one person that loves murder mystery, like the murder podcasts, and like it distracts her enough the whole time. They're fascinating, but I'm just zapping away, and she's listening to like whodunit.
Mhm.
Uh,
Right.
music, TVs. I put a TV on in the classroom, whether it's like for the students to watch something, but when the students aren't watching something, I will just throw on like a long playlist of like a babbling brook. Um, and it really does help people not focus on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. So if okay, this is a good one, Joanie. If a hair doesn't release after treating it 3 times, do you just pluck it or treat it again until it releases?
I go until it's dead.
Yeah, you're like, right.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
die a horrible death. Yeah, I'll keep going. I'm definitely not a don't leave it behind, because 9 times out of 10 it becomes infected. So if you've zapped it a couple times and you leave the hair behind, it always comes back as like a little pimple around the hair. So don't ever leave it behind. It's rare that with experience you end up with hairs that like don't come out after the third time you've been in there, so most of
Mhm.
the time once or twice, that's it. um Sometimes, I mean, you catch one. I think there's a time I might have gone back like 7 or 8 times, but that's one hair out of everything. So it doesn't really do anything bad. If you're constantly going back 3 times
Mhm.
for the same hairs, you need to look at something else. There's something else that's wrong here. So with the technique, with the setting, with the probe, with whatever it is, you have to go back to your actual work. It shouldn't be like that every single time.
Yeah. And I basically I tell the students like treat it 3 times. If you're not getting a release, come back around and see how the tissue handles it, and then you can go back and either treat it. If the tissue seems like it's overworked, because you've just been trying to find your insertion, right?
Yeah.
And instead of finding the insertion, you found like 100 ways to poke the skin. Then I would say that like let's leave that be. But that's the only time I would say let us leave it be. You should be gauging how the tissue reacts to whether or not you can continue doing that. Um, I will say that, like, when doing galvanic current, since I do, multi-needle as well, sometimes you do not get a hair to release right away because it takes a little bit extra time for the lye to kind of mature in the follicle, and so going back to it, like, I will work a line,
Yeah.
okay, so I know where I was at, and I'll go back to it, wait for the inflammation to kinda, like, be at its peak, and then, extract it, and it's ready.
Mhm.
But the other reason is, like, why I don't leave hairs behind other than infection is, how do you know where you've been,
Mhm.
right? Because once the area starts looking worked, it's gonna look worked everywhere. So, let's see here. But should we be plucking hairs?
No.
Um, um, so someone asked they were looking for recommendation on a business attorney that understands our industry. Um, I personally would look no further than my table for someone that is an attorney that understands our industry, because usually you have somebody on there that is passionate about what you're doing. Outside of that, there are no electrolysis specific attorneys, and I wasn't sure where the question came from, so I just wanted to be able to like kind of give a general one on that one. Um, but as for like, there are bookkeepers like Sarah Wolf, who came
Mhm.
to Joanie's thing last year. She works all over the country, and she does bookkeeping for electrologists. She is an electrologist. She understands our industry well.
Yeah, her
Uh,
company's called By the Books.
mhm.
Used to have her little squeezy ball, that little book she made.
Oh yeah.
But it's called By the Books. I think it must be just bythebooks.com. I'll look it up and add it to the chat.
Okay. Um, there are people that kind of like, that they've worked with someone specific in an area, and they talk to their electrologist. I would always kind of lean into those spaces. So anytime you're trying to find someone that is going to be passionate about what we do, the easiest place and the quickest place to find people is going to be people who have had electrolysis before. So it's people that have been on your treatment table in the past. It's people who are on your table now. It is other colleagues in town that might also have resources. By and large, and when people were talking about a business attorney here, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish with your business as well, right? Are we keeping somebody on retainer because in case of emergency, or are we looking for someone to help you set up your business? So those are things to kind of think in the back of your head as you're looking for something. Am I trying to CYA or am I trying to establish my business? A lot of the kind of like online companies for like LLC formation, sometimes they have individuals within those companies that are specialists that they've already hired for you. So like when you get a, say for example, like Zen Business is one that we used. When you go to like set up your business, it'll ask you, do you need a registered agent? Do you need a bookkeeper? Do you need a bank account? And they'll kind of run you through all of those items that you would need, right? But you might already have in other spaces, and then you can kind of self-select what does work for your practice. So, what electrolysis machine would you love to use for your business if cost and availability was not a factor? I'm this person that I like to play with electrolysis machines. So I love my Appleus. I love my Silhouette, I love my Gentronics, and I probably would have every machine on the market if I could put my hands on it and not even think about it because I like to tinker. So I'm probably not the right person to ask. If I had unlimited funds and it wasn't an issue, you'd see one of each.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can probably ask the people in the group right now kind of what they've researched so far, like what their thoughts are on what's available out there. I'd like to kind of hear your input on it.
Yeah. Well, who are people using?
Yeah.
What are you researching? What do you have right now in your practice?
What are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
Annapolis.
Yeah, I know, 10 months later. Like, that's a little rough.
So Anita said she used Sterix for about 20 years and only just invested in Instantron Spectrum Elite.
Very
Nice.
nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. How do you like it so far?
I've had this Instantron for like a year, but it's gone to the US like 4 times just to get repaired. I just got a faulty machine and it keeps dying on me when I'm like 100% booked in, and I'm so scared to use that machine. I'm always like, I don't know if it's working.
Yeah.
And so that's a really a bummer for me. So when I was using it, I do get great results, and my clients also say that they don't feel the lingering pain as opposed to Sterex. It's a slow thermolysis, right? So the pain is on for some time, even post treatment. But I'm so scared to use the machine because I don't know if it's working, and I can't be testing it on myself all the time because my probes are coming from UK, and it's very, very expensive now. And UK is not shipping directly anymore. So I'm having lots of logistics problems.
Yeah.
So,
Where are you located, Anita?
Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
I've been there.
Oh, you've been there?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Next time you come, please call
Yes.
me.
Yeah, I did the big beauty show in Kuala Lumpur back in I think it was like 2011. It's been a long time.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice.
I'm the only electrologist in town. So
very nice.
So I'm now opening up for classes. I think I've dealt with Stephanie on her PCOS to learn more about that. Okay. So this year I've got like 4 students. It's a slow thing. Nobody really knows what electrolysis is in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Things to think about when it comes to your machine. Okay, so and I will say right now I do not have an Instantron in the office. I've had an Instantron before. And now there's a new owner. So Synoptic Products is now the new owner of Instantron, and they're really receptive on fixing things. I love the fact that you have 2 machines because that means that if something does go down, at least you're not interrupting your flow. And I will tell anybody that's on this call, I am that electrologist that will tell you, it's not just that I like machines, it's you have to have a backup, okay? Yeah. Because otherwise you're out money and out a machine, and sometimes it's a long time that you're out. One of the things that we experienced with the Instantron, and I don't think this will be an issue going forward. I think it was an issue of the past, is some of the older epilators, and older by like the last couple of years, on manual setting, if you were using your foot pedal, and there was no turn off time. So you were burning out the equipment inside because it would basically just keep going and keep frying as long as the pedal was depressed. And obviously as an instructor, and I'm sure you guys will feel the same way, when you have a new student, there's some controls that you do need in place. And it didn't have that. It does have it in auto start. And what I will say as an instructor is auto start is for when you are comfortable enough to be able to work without interruption and have like a straightaway for your hairs, right? If you're moving into every little space, okay, auto start becomes problematic. And as a new technician, unless you know your lineup is on and good, auto start can lead to a lot of burns. So I would, even though on the auto start feature on the the Instantron can turn it off, I don't recommend it for a new person. And so it can't be a feature that we can only access in one. And so I've spoken to Synoptic Products, and I just said, like, this is one thing that as a teacher, I need to have on a machine, right? So we should see that start to change, just because I've been pressing them for it. I don't know what model that will happen on, but it probably will happen.
But I've also been only using for the last 20 years the finger, the finger machine.
That's the Sterix. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sterix machine.
So it's a learning curve for me to use the foot, because my mind doesn't connect to that foot, and it's.
Have you used the auto mode on the Instantron?
Yeah, I only use the auto mode on the Instantron. So,
but the sense, like working without the foot pedal, have you done that?
Yes, I never use the foot pedal because I can't. So because I'm not used to it, and I'm having all kinds of ankle issues with that as well because of my foot weight and all that. So, but the thing is, I noticed that once I get the flow, I'm good. So what something disrupts, then if like a problematic follicle, then I'm lost again because the flow is no more there, and the sensor, then I'm trying to figure out how to lengthen it or and all that issues, because as soon as you go in, the sensor starts, right? So I cannot gauge. So once it connects with the skin, it's already going to the next second or the next moment, the current is going to flow. Mm-hmm. So I get a lot of surface burns on the initial client.
Yeah. That's interesting that you're having the mechanical issues though, if you're in auto start. So I would definitely bring that up to Synoptic Products and just express like how you think your machine.
4 times in a year should be you should swap out the machine.
Yeah, that is a machine issue at that point. So
yeah.
Today, we want to shine some light on some of our amazing partners who are helping shape the future of electrology education, services, distribution, and so much more. We're thrilled to have such amazing partners and supporters. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned professional, these vendors and schools have what you need to succeed. Heading to the Golden State, California Electrology Academy offers an immersive learning experience that prepares students for national certification, as well as many states with reciprocity to California's licensing exams. Led by Joanie and Joanie Gonella, they bring decades of quality services and education. CEA offers flexible schedules, open enrollment, and a supportive learning environment, making them a perfect place to start your electrology journey. Be sure to check them out for cutting-edge education right in sunny Southern California. And visit electrologyacademy.com. That's electrologyacademy.com. Elevate your practice with Silhouette Tone. Known worldwide for their advanced equipment and sleek designs, from epilators to treatment tables, lasers, and more, they provide a gold standard in comfort and performance. Your clients deserve the best, and the Silhouette Tone delivers. Head over to silhouettone.us to learn more. That's Silhouette Tone, SILHOUETTONE.us to learn more.
Hey there, electrologists. My name is Hazel Bloom. I'm a life coach for the LGBTQIA+ community and its allies. As a trans woman, I have done the hard work and introspection to figure out who I am, what I want from life, and how to live authentically as myself. These are universal skills that I can teach you and help you gain the confidence to thrive. Also, I know that the conversations with clients on the table can get a bit intense and beyond the scope of electrology, so I'd invite you to refer them to me so they can get the support they need through a tough time instead of taking that burden on yourself. I'm also available as a resource for you if you just need some assistance figuring out how to help a client or to ask any questions. Whatever you need, I can help. My website is kiwifruitcoaching.com, or you can email me directly, hazel@kiwifruitcoaching.com.
Thanks for tuning in to Electrolysis Unplugged. Be sure to check out our amazing sponsors for the best in electrology tools, training, technology, and so much more. Now, back to the show.
Other technicians, what are we using here? Anybody else got a different machine?
I have the Excel. I actually just ordered my second one this
Nice.
week. So, the wait begins.
Absolutely.
I just compiled a big list of all of the outstanding orders that we have so that I can send a fairly direct email to Mr. Beaumont because of the wait. So
What I haven't actually gotten to, well, I haven't ordered a machine recently, but what is the holdup? Do we know?
It's a lot of things. It's sourcing of parts, like computer chips have been hard to get since COVID. So
Okay.
they're always running out of some sort of piece for their boards.
Okay.
And then it takes a time, to source it again, or the company they source it from doesn't make it anymore. So they have to find something new. And so then it's like research and development to find a new piece. We get tester machines, we have to go through, send it back. So all of that takes time.
Yeah.
And then because they're manufactured in Canada and because of how they run their business, they tend to be low on engineers all the time that build the machines.
Got it.
So they should be running, 3 shifts around the clock just to be able to fulfill the demand. And they really maybe have staff enough for 1.5.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
it's a lot of different things. They did expand. Also, there was the space that they had for manufacturing, but they did just build it like a 10,000 square foot extension to the manufacturer. So they more than doubled the space. Now, I don't know if if they don't have the people to do it, that's all nice and good, but it's not gonna do much of anything. And then if you have the people, but you don't have the parts, then that's also not gonna work. So it's kind of a little bit of everything.
Is that the newer machine that's taking forever?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. And is there, once the machine is made and shipped, is there still issues with it, or is it working like it should?
It works like it should. I mean, and it's electronic, right? So there's always, no matter what brand of machine you have, there's always a chance that something doesn't go right. Obviously, the more computer pieces, the more finicky things get. Think about cars nowadays, right?
Mm.
Like cars back in the 80s and the 90s were probably more reliable than our electric everything today, because there's more computer components in it. So there's more chances of things breaking down, having some sort of issue, just because of all the interest in what's the word I'm looking for? Intricate components that go into cars nowadays versus what it used to be back in the day. So which machine will be more sensitive, the XL or the senior and junior? Well, the XL, because it has more computer components, with touch screen, with all this stuff. It also has a lot more functionalities. It's got more modalities. It's got, it's the nicer version. But usually the ideal would be that you have an XL and maybe just like a junior or a senior as a backup.
Mhm.
Like, just because those machines tend to be workhorses. You'll have them for 30 years. And I mean, they're still selling used the first version of the senior machines. Those were made in the 80s.
Wow.
So they're still around, you know, so you can buy those and still work on those, but obviously they're all used. We're on the senior 3Gs, that's the third generation. So there's senior 2s, that's second generation. Those came out in, I think, 1995. And then the senior 1s, the old seniors, those came out in the 80s, 79 or something like that. So the machines are not new, but they still work, you know.
There is, okay, so I know that there's a new machine coming out from Silhouette Tone. I know there's a new machine coming out from a new multi-needle machine that's coming out from, I
Or
can't think of,
blend.
no, it is, Permanence, which I haven't heard that manufacturer before, but I
Yeah,
was,
me neither.
because you guys, I do multi-needle as well, so like, I've been following to see who's coming out with a new one because it's been 15 years since we got a new one. And I on the multi-needle Facebook group, they just posted pictures of the new one. There's no links for purchase. There's no links for website yet. So I'm like, I'm curious, but
It's
I don't
not
think it's,
by Beverly Hills Hair Free, is it? It's not the one
Mhm.
she was trying to push for a while.
No, it's actually a very basic model, which I mean,
Okay.
here's the thing, guys, like multi-needle, that's the thing about it. There really doesn't need to be bells and whistles because it's direct
The
current.
technology is very basic. Yeah.
It's very basic. It's just, it's nice for my clients with distorted hair follicles. I like it. But it's a difficult one to get your hands on. And it requires more equipment, meaning more filaments. So I do charge a premium for when I do it, but it's for people who have really just not found permanence in other ways and they just can't sit through thermolysis, they keloid a lot, that kind of stuff, then we're gonna be switching over to that one. Um, the unit is like, I mean, I was kind of laughing at the fact that it's literally 2 dials, 16 probes. The rack is the fanciest thing on it. So, I mean, I'm excited, but I'm also like, wow, that's after 15 years, we went back to dials. And that was weird to me. But that doesn't mean it's not going to be in my office because it'll be in my office. Silhouette Tone, I don't know the details on their new machine, but it's supposed to launch at the end of February.
Do you know the
Uh,
frequency?
I don't, but I heard it's multi-frequency, and I'm just like, I
Oh, well, I mean, if they put like the 5, you know, the 4.78 and the 4.5 something, I forget, and the
6.78,
6.78. Yeah,
13.
13.
So I don't know what that means at this point, you
I
know,
don't know
because
where
it's
that would
like,
be
yeah,
necessary. Yeah.
yeah. So that's a new one that I know that's coming out. Claire Blend, that's what I got trained on. So Claire Blend, I had the Ultra Blend, was my electrolysis machine that I got trained on. Now that you have a few other ones like the Elegance and that kind of stuff, you can't do fast blend on a Claire Blend. 4 seconds is the minimum. And that is something that I like to do. I do like fast blend when I'm doing that modality. So, that's another one. They have a single needle galvanic now as well. So say, for example, you had a unit that was only thermolysis for whatever reason, you could get a unit that's only galvanic as well if you weren't
Mhm.
looking for like a comprehensive unit. Um, God, who else is out there? I'm trying to think. We have, wait,
Well,
there's still Hinkles at
yeah, they don't
Texas.
make Fishers and Hinkles anymore. So
No,
those are just going to be just straight used.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
Eric's makes
I,
their little units.
mhm.
Um, and then there's some like Eastern European brands that I've seen. Because you know how like electrolysis is pretty popular in like Russia and Romania and like those areas. There's a lot of electrologists up there, but they use like slow thermolysis units. You know, that's pretty much what I've seen kind of photos of.
I forgot the name of Tony. So Tony, who's on the call here, um, when she and I first started working together, she had a very basic, cool little white box unit with like had green letters in the front. And I don't remember who it's made by, but it does all 3 modalities. It's a 13.5 megahertz machine. It's very like simple in its setup.
Mhm.
But she was able to get that from the person who initially trained her as part of her training.
Yeah.
Um, as as it stands, the unit is good for a backup unit, like for sure. She ended up going to the Apple's XL Pro, or I can't remember if you went Pro or Pure, and I don't know if you can unmute yourself to say, but she ended up going to that. I am curious to know how much she's using of each machine nowadays, now that she's been cruising. But if you can't unmute yourself, Tony, and you can't say, if you can put it in the chat, inquiring minds would like to know. Oh yeah, Elite probes. There are so many, there are so many probe makers out there, that are kind of just like one-offs. Here in the States, we have basically Prestige, ProTech, Ballet, and Sterex. I feel
No,
like
the probe machine by Elite, it's really tiny, tiny, tiny machine. It's like
oh
super
yeah, it's like a
tiny.
little
Yeah.
box one.
Yeah, that's it's
Pocket
a
unit.
as well. And so she recommends it for advanced electrolysis,
Mm.
but I use it for thing, but I noticed that it only works after number 4 in the dial. So it's hard to go anything lower.
Interesting.
And silhouettes, some silhouettes. I mean, there's quite a few in UK that uses mostly slow thermolysis machines and slow blend and whatever. Yeah. So I normally navigate towards UK machines because of the current, because I use
Mhm.
250 volts, whereas
Oh.
in the US I have this 110 and then I need a converter for that.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah. It's so what's interesting is so Elite Thermalo, so that's Lorenzo Coons. That's who was my laser trainer. And there is Skin Classic, so Stephanie, I can't think of her last name, Stephanie H. She also is another advanced like practice. The machines are like very basic. You're just getting thermolysis to cauterize, right? But that's what you would have to use on your insurance if you were doing advanced electrolysis, because your regular epilator, unless you want to use it off label, which you can't protect yourself in that way, like is going to be that.
Mhm.
Pauline has questions about an EL. So is there such thing as too high of a setting if the skin isn't reacting?
Not necessarily, because in this, I had actually, it happened when I was teaching a group of electrologists in Tokyo, in Japan. And so I was there with the XLs. That's what they were purchasing. And I had a group of electrologists from all over Japan coming to Tokyo for a week, and I was teaching them. And I noticed that there was an issue with the machine. We were using the machines, and I would have to go manually way beyond the presets and work in like 9,000 energy levels just to be able to get the hair out. Now, I know what to look for, and I know how these machines work really well. So I wasn't too panicked. And honestly, I was in Japan, so it's not like I could call the manufacturer and be like, bring me some machines. This is what we had to work with. And so I had to make it work. I had to get through the class, teach them how to use the machine. But yeah, for whatever reason, we had a bunch of machines with bad boards or something. There was a power loss, and none of those machines would remove a hair, would budge a hair out with anything less than 9,000 energy levels. And so I was able to get through the week, and I taught them, that like I could tell by the release, by what the feedback of the client says, right? If you ask, how does it feel? And they said, it feels fine, but your energy level is up really high. And then the skin doesn't react at all. There's no redness or anything like that. Then what says that that's not what you need? But I would be careful, because I knew that the machines were weak. And so I was going up to that level because I knew that there was something wrong. Now, if you're able to use your machine at a low setting, and then you feel like you have to go really high, then I would maybe ask some questions as to why is it that with this client, I need so much power when I know that it works at lower levels. So if it's not a machine issue, that you feel like the machine's a little bit weak, then I would say go back to insertion, go back to modality and things like that.
So I have one. I keep muting myself on accident.
No.
I have one client, African American. She has like a full beard. I was using Synchro like 635 EL, for like single taps.
Sure.
And her last appointment, I brought her down to 496, but I'm having to do double taps. I'm using a F5 IBL, super deep hairs. She isn't using numbing cream. She's totally fine, like everything. And I'm just paranoid because she is African American. I'm really scared about the hyperpigmentation, but I'm not seeing any like skin reactions.
So
And
how's her healing though? How is it doing afterwards? Scabs,
oh
redness?
no, yeah, no scabs, no redness. She's fine. Like she comes in about 3 hours. We've been doing about 3 hours a week.
Those levels are not raising any kind of red flags. It is high, don't get me wrong, but it's not abnormally high. If you're using a size 5, the hairs are that thick, you're dealing with skin that is probably a little bit more dry and hairs that are not super straight rooted, then I wouldn't be too alarmed. I don't think that you're out there. I would be concerned if you were in the thousands.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's when it starts to kind of like what's going on.
I had another client. I was also on synchro, maybe not as high, but like the 400s. And I had did the right side of her face. And then when I went to switch to the other side, the hairs just weren't releasing anymore. And I was like, what is going on? And I started going up and up and up. And I went up to like 900 EL or something. And then I finally asked her, I was like, can you feel this? And she's like, oh, I mean, no, not really. Like she could, but not, probably just more me continuing trying to insert and treat the hair. And then I looked, and apparently, like when I changed the setting, it changed I accidentally, I guess, somehow switched my probe port.
Well, there you go.
And I was like, okay, well, let's turn this back down. But I was just like, yeah, sometimes they just won't even say anything. Like, and I finally was like, couldn't figure out what was going on. I'm like, how could the hairs on this side be so much stronger? So,
Yeah. It's either you didn't hand them the ground, they're not on the right port. It's if it's that drastic. I also will say that like sometimes I see people really like manhandle their cords. Don't bend your cord in half. Like your energy needs to flow, right?
Yeah.
And so just really keep an elongated cord as much as you can over your hand. If you're ever seeing that happen. As for so how I interact with more distorted hairs, thicker hairs, and darker skin is usually to move myself out of synchro because I just don't have the moisture that I need there. And so I'll go into multiplex if I'm doing thermolysis and just do a slower thermolysis with a couple bursts of the pico at the end. And then that's one way I'll address it if I need to stick on thermolysis. On the other side, I'll go to synchro blend. And I will work with those hairs within synchro blend or pico blend if I am reducing I know I showed this at the education event last year, but there's a way to unlock your galvanic on your Apollos to make it go down to 1 second. And I will drop that down to 1 second on my Apollos and then kind of inch my way back up and just try in small increments of blend if I can't get those hairs out. But in your case, it was more along the lines of the hairs wouldn't come out because you weren't on the right cord. So I mean, I'm just saying, like, how would I go about it in my own office? Like, if I'm seeing that, I'm gonna address it that way because even though, like, right now I am very, very light, I darken up quite a bit. It's just I don't go out in the sun as much anymore. So because I want to stay youthful. But I will tell you, whenever I have electrolysis, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation is kind of like hand in hand for my skin. And so just keep an eye on the treatment area as you're working on your rich melanin because you don't, even if you're not causing any like scabbing, you need to be able to approach the skin as cautiously as possible so that you're not overworking the melanin in that area.
And one thing that you could do, Pauline, is maybe switch from a BL to a TH. The 5 BLs to me are just so exposed that it's so rare that you really have a root that deep that I tend to stick more to the THs and the size 5s. And I think that just gives you more freedom to be at different depths. And because you're reducing that surface area, you might have to bring down your settings a little bit. So that might help too.
Okay.
I mean, really on the
Yeah,
BL,
I mean, she's not complaining at all.
Yeah.
if you're dealing with those deep hairs, like a BL is really, I mean, that's when you're going to do blend. It's just, you don't really need it for
Yeah.
your thumb
I will
pieces.
say though, her follicles are very straight. I don't have there's no curve, so I'm actually thankful for that. So the actual treatment, yeah, I was kind of surprised by that, but the actual treatment is really easy. So I actually really enjoy when she comes in.
Yeah, those easy follicles are the best. Did you guys see, I don't know if you saw the picture my mom posted online the other day of the ingrown that she took out of the mons pubis on that woman?
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
stuff dreams are
Oh my
made
God.
of.
I had to show Hannah.
Yeah. It's literally keeps going
Yeah.
up onto the big
That was
screen at
crazy.
the school. It's so good. Like, everybody look at this person's pubic hair.
Yeah,
Like,
right. Oh, the things that excite us.
right? Let's see. Okay, so we still have a couple more minutes. Okay, so this was actually a question I pulled off of Electrolysis Information Worldwide, and it was an anonymous post. So I don't know where it came from, but I'm going to go over it anyway because I do think it's interesting. Because each person comes from a different training background. I'm new to electrolysis. Can we treat vellus peach fuzz on the face? My boss keeps scheduling me people for it. It's time consuming and hard to find the follicle. And I feel like I'm not treating the hair. And then they were like, help. Okay, so peach fuzz happens to be something for whatever reason. When I have great lighting, it's something I love to do. Okay. But not for people who are a little stuck up. Okay. So I like it for like the people that are just like coming in for just some defuzzing on their cheeks. Secondary lighting is huge. So I use loops when she's like, it's hard to see it. I definitely recommend loops or high powered magnification. And I don't recommend using the lamp because the minute you put that lamp in front of your face with peach fuzz, it's going to cancel out the hair. You're not going to be able to see it. So on peach fuzz clients, I will use my prismatic lenses. I use the yellow filter on my light. Okay. And then I cut that light basically with a secondary white light. So it comes in and glows the hair so if I'm looking this way, the second light will come in from this direction or the following, like this side. And that is personally how I do it. I understand how a lot of people don't necessarily like doing peach fuzz, and I am in the same boat when it's a difficult client, but when it's an easy client, it's kind of a cool challenge, and that's the ways that I go about it. What about you guys? What are you doing, Joanie?
Pretty much the same. I have my glasses, but I do no headlight. So I usually point it up towards the ceiling. If you do have a lamp, just turn off the light on that first lamp. Use just the magnification to look through, and then use another light for your backlighting. And usually it's kind of like the light has to come from the side. So like when you're in the car and the light comes from the side and just highlights everything that you don't want to see, right? Usually my recommendations is you need to stretch first, then move the light. Because if you move the light, get your right angle, put your hands down on the skin, it just disappears because you just move the skin. So you stretch first. Then I say, like, if it's a light, I kind of say, like, move your spaceship, so you're just kind of like this until you see it highlight perfectly. And then you just work. A lot of it is just, I like doing it because it's almost like a hyper focus. So I just get super hyper focused, and I will do an hour this much, easily. So yeah. I do a lot of peach fuzz, super tiny little hairs. That a lot of the girls come in for, like full foreheads, these tiny little baby hairs that they're just covered with. I do a ton of that kind of stuff. Insertions are super shallow and more shallow than you can think of. It's a trick. If you don't like doing it, you have a hard time getting the hairs out. 9 times out of 10, the insertion's not on point. So you can't, it's lighting and it's insertion. If you get both of those things down, it's a cakewalk.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, not everybody has their cameras on, but like, I work with the lights off as much as possible. I am like a little bat. I just want to be in the darkness. And for me, it helps with that hyper focus portion of it because if I'm not necessarily focused on the surrounding part, I'm not looking for my peripheral and whatever's going on out there, it just seems to really help. Yeah, Tony also likes the lights off. I also feel like it helps my head at the end of the day, where you felt like you were focused. If I have one of those lights off, I feel like it just calms my eyes a little bit. If you're finding that your eyes are super tired, it can be because the light on your headlight is so bright that kind of, like when you go from outside of your house to inside and you have that moment where your eyes can't focus, it's a very similar to that. So, take breaks. If you're doing long sessions, you should not be staring at that very bright white light on white skin for sure, because it's just going to kill the back of your eyeballs.
You know, I did a conference a long time ago, and there was an ophthalmologist or an optometrist. I don't know which one he was, but he was an eye doctor. And I remember he talked about, the eye strain. And he was saying that one thing that electrologists do is that, we focus on something up close. And so for us to hold our eyeballs to a focal point, and by the way, if you wear glasses, your focal point is directly in front of your eyes. And so he said that the way that we hold our eyeballs is kind of towards the inside like this into the focal point. And it's the equivalent of just having a little weight, maybe just like this, my phone in my hand, it's blacking it out, but my phone was in my hand. So it's the equivalent of having a weight in your hand, a very light one, maybe like 1 pound, but holding it there for 8 hours a day. And so over time, that muscle gets very, very tired. And so he said that you need to reverse that. So when you have a break between clients, what you should not do is sit and then look at your phone, which is also close up, or go on the computer, which is also close up. He said the way that we relax our eye muscles is by looking at something very far in the distance, because that's kind of how we've evolved as humans. And so you go outside and you just try to see if you can look at the furthest thing you can make out. And that actually relaxes those little muscles in your eyes. And so it helps to kind of reverse some of that strain that you get from long sessions. And so if you find that like eye issues is your problem, then that's probably something that you have to do. So that was a nice takeaway.
Oh, absolutely. When I was going through some of I was getting this like little tension headaches. The first thing my eye doctor said is like, how many times are you resting your eyes in the day? And I'm like, I mean,
Sure.
I feel like I'm like, I don't think I do.
Yeah.
I also think that we're really good at a staring contest. I mean, we might
Don't blink.
blink,
Yeah.
right? But like you kind of just relax your eyes to a point where your eyes are open and your eyes get really dry. So I definitely have like utilized eye drops in there. I relax my eyes as much as possible. I do like a lot of magnification. And even to this day, when I go to my eye doctor and I'm like, ooh, do I get more magnification? He's like, no, we need you not to do that. So a lot of the stuff that I do is like just to relax it that way. I also use pressure against my eyes at the end of the day. So I have something called a Nod Pod. It's a weighted eye mask that doesn't tie behind my head because I can't hang with that behind my head when I'm sleeping. And I can, because I'm a side sleeper, I can move it to the one side of my head and it will stay on and I'll still have the two weighted things above my eyes. And I just like rest my eyes because they're very light sensitive and look for light very first thing that they can.
I've got a question here from Giselle. It just came direct message, so I'm just going to read it out. What machine do you recommend for a new tech?
Ooh, new tech. Okay, so how soon can you get your machine is the first question. Because as a new tech, when you're coming out of school, if it's going to take 8 to 10 months to get a machine, I do recommend getting another machine so you can keep yourself up and going. Which is hard for me to I know that that's kind of goes against.
I mean, it sucks, but it's the reality. And I understand that, it's tough to say to students. And that's one of my biggest gripes with Clement is that, how do you tell a student that comes out of school, sorry, you'll get your machine in 6 months, and it doesn't work. So, I get it. Don't get me wrong. I definitely think that, my personal opinion, I think I like the Apple's machines. I think that they're great machines, user-friendly and all of that. And eventually maybe that's what you can, go for, no problems. But if you need something in the meantime, you can always keep it as a backup, it never goes to waste.
So right now, what I do with my students is a 13.5 megahertz silhouette tone machine. That's like, that is your entry point into the electrology world. Part of the reason that I say that with them is I say, I want you to get your silhouette tone now, and then I want you to put a down payment on your Appleus, so you can do those payments up until it arrives. That way, you have a backup machine and your primary machine. And if you have people that are sensitive to 27.12, you can go to 13.5. And if you're at a 13.5 and they are sensitive to that, you can go to 27.12. So you have a little bit of both. I also like the fact that it's 2 manufacturers. So at the school, that's what we have. And I can, for right now, silhouette tones are arriving in about 7 to 10 days for the ST250s. I think that's probably because they're about to come out with the other one. But that would be my recommendation as a starting point. If you're straight out of school, you don't necessarily need the speed of a 27.12.
And
That-
Giselle, a lot of it will go with what you train on. We have some instantrons at the school, and so usually all the new people kind of start on those.
Yeah.
So you'll get the chance to kind of try out what the spectrum that actually works like. You know, you can try it out on yourself, and then you'll get a chance to kind of work on some of the Appleus machines that are in the classroom too. So
Yeah.
just have to see.
But the thing is like, one of my big takeaways is all machines get you permanent hair removal,
Mhm.
right? So what can you get your hands on right now to keep your practice up and going? That's what I would get yourself into. Whether that's Appleus, whether that's Clairblend, whether that's Silhouette Tone, doesn't matter. Your practice as an electrologist, and I don't mean like practicing, right? Your practice every day that you work needs practice. When you take breaks as an electrologist, you suffer when you come back from those breaks, because our work is so fine motor and so repetitive that when you step away from school, you need to be practicing on your own leg hairs until you get clients on your table. At least that's my 2 cents.
So I think that's kind of what we have time for tonight.
Until next week.